Hello, everyone. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Sendra D. My guest today is Dr. Leo Valentine to share his wisdom and his why. I'm privileged to be able to introduce him. Dr. Valentine is a founder and CEO of LIV Imaging in healthcare. And he has a background from Harvard University, from Baylor University, and from University of Miami. Allow me to introduce you, Dr. Leo Valentine, who is also running for Congress, District 7, Seminole County in Orange County in Florida. So, Dr. Valentine, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I think it's a journey, and you know, all of us have a different process. For me, it started with my upbringing, my family. I remember seeing my grandmother and talking to her. She went through a difficult process with breast cancer, and as a child, or you know, you don't really understand all the implications of that. It's really until later that I started studying that specific type of cancer that she had, and understanding what recurrence meant, and what going through another cycle of chemotherapy meant. And she was always a very very committed Christian, very religious, and I saw how religion was important for her, and how that was a foundation for her to be able to fight cancer and many other adversities in her life. So seeing that example, and as the years went by, I was able to understand it more and more. And again, I was very fortunate to have them as an integral part of my life, both my grandfather and my grandmother. From my grandfather, I mentioned he was a physician. What I should also mention is that his first endeavor was being deployed in the Korean War. So he was a Korean War veteran, and after that he became a teacher. And it isn't until later in life that he decides to study medicine. So I saw their journey, their perseverance, their effort to be a better version of themselves and to give back to their community. And I think it's that awareness, learning that appreciation for what they have done for our family. I think it's a big inspiration, and it helped me understand the importance of having those values close to your heart.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sorry you had to go, with what happened with your grandmother. Of course, anytime a child has to witness a family member suffering, it has significant, great impact, which, leads me to what I'm curious about is when you meet someone for the first time, what kind of impression would you like to, do you naturally give to that person? I know what impact, when we first met, I felt like there was a deeper connection, which is why, I felt compelled to ask you to come to the show.
No, and thank you so much. I think it's a great question. And just to backtrack a little bit, my grandmother went through that, but fortunately she's still with us. She was able to go through that recurrence, and she fought and she won. She won the fight against breast cancer, and so the lesson there is her perseverance. So I just wanted to clarify that in terms of when I meet someone, I think it's really important to be yourself and to be authentic. And I think that's the feedback I get when I'm talking to people now on the campaign trail. And I think it's really important because people are tired of Washington politicians. I'm not a career politician, and people see that. And when we're talking about ideas and we're conveying our message, that's the one thing I hear back is that people like it, and they feel that they have someone authentic that's telling them their thoughts and really cares about the issues.
Excellent. Well, I love that. The word authenticity is something that needs to be more and more, how can I say, that needs to resonate in the airwaves more and more, because I think that humanity is yearning for that.
So, I think going back to my grandfather, as a kid, I used to go with him to he was a family physician or a general practitioner, more accurately. And at that time, you're the physician that takes care of the entire town. And I was fortunate enough to be able to be part of that with him. And seeing that, I think there are a lot of lessons there. My grandfather had his small business, right? That the medical office was a small business, and seeing the different aspects from that for me was very, very important. And I think that was the first influence in that way, and that encouraged me to be independent in many ways. And in terms of a business leader, I think important things are the education, not only having a strong educational background, but also being able to convey your knowledge to others. I think that's part very important in business and in medicine as well. I think a physician is also an educator. We have to educate and communicate our experience and our knowledge to our patients. I think also the technology aspect is very important. I think regardless of how you define technology, I think the advances in engineering and the different tools that we have now available are really important in every endeavor, from strictly business to healthcare. We know we can put those tools in or have them to make things better in an institution or even in an enterprise. So I think those two sectors, and in my personal case, it's the other aspect is healthcare. I've been in the healthcare sector as a physician, but also as a healthcare executive, and even in the technology sector. When I was part of NVIDIA Corporation, I was the first physician to join the company. And although we're talking about technology, was still related to the healthcare sector and to artificial intelligence and things like that. So having that perspective in terms of being well-rounded, I think it makes me a better business leader, in able to be able to deliver results. Well, I think it's definitely a shared trait, and in terms of those lessons, I think my mother comes to mind, and it's really that perseverance, being positive against adversity, and really being a fighter for what you believe, and being a fighter in order to achieve the things that you want to achieve. So I think those values are definitely exemplified by them. But there's so many. I've been fortunate, and I've had great parents, and there's so many values that I think I can derive from them. But definitely that authenticity is one of them.
Well, sounds like a great foundation. And I know now you are married with a newborn. How old is your son?
So he's 7 months now.
Right. What a great father he has
Yeah.
to already have this understanding to be able to pass on to him. So, I'm grateful to you for being that parent.
Sure. I think my time at the University of Miami was really important. I was living, as an adult, still a teenager, right? But still an adult, independent, and living on campus, and having that experience at the University of Miami, going through pre-med, which obviously is a very competitive area, and having that experience there. In terms of colleagues from all around the world, all around the country, I think it really, was that point where you start having that awakening as an individual, as an adult, and when you're responsible for everything that you're doing at home and during your education, having to make the decisions, to make choices in so many different aspects as a college student. So I think it's college. It's so important for many things, but I think there's a lot more to college than just the courses, right, or the classes. I think it's a lot of decision making, and you start realizing early on how good decisions can impact your career and your future. I'm a Christian. I've always been a Christian, and like I said, in my household, my family, we've seen the importance of that practice and believing in God and really putting God first. And I think it's really what keeps me grounded. Not only from and the political aspect. I think it's very important to have that foundation, but also in everything in my life, I think it's really important to have that always as part of me. It's sort of our compass, and so I saw that, like I said, from early on as a child, and as we grow older, I think we appreciate even more those lessons. Well, I think it's important for everyone to make their own decision and their own time. I think it's a matter of priorities, and also a matter of being able to set that time apart. I think it's really important, and and my wife and I, it's really something that we share, and there's so many ways to talk to God, right? And I think that's a very, very personal choice, and but it's really important to do that. So going back to the answer, question about schedule, it's not always easy, especially with medical practice, but I think it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, and I can see how it could be beneficial of having that type of grounding and seeing people who are so desperate for some type of understanding greater than what the evidence is saying,
Hmm.
and to have a physician like you by their side could be
Hmm.
could make a significant difference. So I'm sure there's your patients are full gratitude of the service that you've provided this
Thank
far,
you.
and so.
Sure. No, I have, I think, two very important days, and that are, I consider, the greatest days of my life, and that's when I got married to Kayla, my wife, and the birth of my son. So I think those are moments that it really, in terms of your spirituality and seeing the miracle of life. I think it's amazing, and that's why I say, it's so important to have that present, and so those 2 days were definitely the greatest days of my life. Well, I think all of us in our lives, we're not going to face a single challenge. We're going to face multiple, right? And I think life is full of challenges, and we all have different ways to overcome those. And some challenges are bigger than others. Some of them we make them bigger than what they should be. I think as a doctor, some of those challenges I've found them along the way, taking care of my patients. Sometimes, unfortunately, there are conditions that are outside of our control, and so we try our very best to give the best care to our patients. But it is a tough process, and uh, you see and you take care of many lives along the way. So there've been multiple challenges in that regard, and as a physician, you're there being a central part of that care, and sometimes we see patients that we would like them to have a better prognosis, and unfortunately, that's sometimes not the case, and that can be very hard for a physician. And I think it takes a lot of time, experience, and going back to your grounding, a lot of faith, and really being able to understand the bigger plan. And so this really touches a lot in terms of my medical practice and my medical care. I think we're an instrument, and we do our to the best of our abilities, and that's why all throughout my training I've always wanted um, to develop the best of those abilities so I can put it to the service of others. So I think um, going back to the question, so I think the challenges in a medical career have been particularly, um, they come to mind, and they're present there. But it is something that we have to learn throughout the way.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's important. I wake up essentially every morning, and I think even it's almost now at a subconscious level, but how can we make things better? Right? Can we make things better for our patients, for our community? And I think all of us can have a little bit of that, right? Medicine is not the only way to contribute to your community, but definitely having that moral compass and having that goal in mind. And there are going to be days that you're able to make smaller contributions. There are going to be great days that are great, and you're able to significantly impact someone's life. And I think that's the beauty of medicine. But I think we can also find it in other ways, right? And in terms of being able to provide a service to our community. I think there are many professions, and whether we realize it or not, we can all have a meaningful impact.
Powerful.
Thank you. Well, I think honor relates to your value system. I think it's having a value system and being able to live in accordance to that. I think we carry great pride in honoring our parents, our family, and I think that's really, really important. It's a way of paying back all the important lessons their patients during their time educating us and raising us. So I think that's a big thing for me. In my case, I carry the same name as my grandfather and my father. So it's even to a certain extent, it's even more present because of that. So for me, it's a great honor to carry the same name my grandfather did and that my father does.
That's excellent. So does your son have your name as well?
He does. He's the fourth. I think some people tell me we should only do it for 4 or 5 generations. So we might be reaching the end of the line here. But he's
you never know. Don't put a cap on it.
He's Leonardo the fourth, and then Leo Jr. And so again, it's a way of us to honor our family and our grandfather.
That's excellent. What a legacy.
That's a great question. So I enjoy technology a lot. You might have guessed. I think there's two kinds of people in this world, and at least from what I've seen, is there's some people that love cars and some people that love technology and computers, and I think there's a reason to that. For example, when my uncle was growing up, the invention or the evolution of cars was the biggest engineering achievement to some extent. And so people that grow up with those kind of examples, and they tend to appreciate them. In our case, it was more of the computer revolution, the internet, and everything. So I definitely love technology. I like cars a lot and as well, but I think technology is something that I see as really important and really powerful. I think it has a tremendous potential of being a multiplier. So I definitely don't get tired of learning, new things about technology.
Technology keeps us fast-paced. I constantly have to recharge myself. And I want to know, what do you do to recharge when you're balancing multiple fronts? Home, business.
Sure. That's a great follow-up question, because I think our modern lifestyle is so, in a way, it can be very sedentary. It can be related to this technology, right? We can't spend all our time in front of a computer or doing things at the office. So I think that's why nature is so important for me and for my wife. That's our way of balancing, like you mentioned, all this exposure to technology. I think it's everything. We need to have a balance for everything, and being able to go back to nature, whether it's the beach and relaxing. At the same time, my wife taught me a lot about hiking, and so anytime we're traveling, we try to do a hike and things like that. So it goes back to having that exposure to nature, because it makes it appreciate it a lot more, and I think it's important for the human mind to be exposed to nature as well.
There is a tone of humility in our conversation. I see that. I mean, of course, the audience, I hope, they are able to feel that as well. So, how did you develop this sense of humility? How did you become so humble?
I think it's like I mentioned, the journey of medicine. You have a lot of ups and downs, and I think it's important to always be humble in that regard. I think it's an essential part, or should be an essential part of every physician. And sometimes knowing what you don't know, I think it's and knowing there's a lot of out there that we don't really know, and so I think it's really important to always have that in mind. There are also different different aspects to that. I think I'm particularly humbled and honored of seeing some of my students reach out and tell me how a lecture or a presentation was really helpful for them. And one thing that I've done a lot of educational material, and sometimes I receive emails from people from Denmark thanking me about a particular conference. Or the other day I received the great news that some of our work in actually breast cancer got published in one of the leading journals of radiology. And
Congratulations!
Thank you. And so I have this doctor who's in training. She's a doctor but is in training, and she reached out to me and she asked for my permission to include our work in part of her article. So of course I agreed, and that was one of the big accomplishments in terms of the educational aspect in 2019. So I'm very proud of that. Being conscious of the importance that is to for us to communicate them and to really have their experience shared with us. So I think that's definitely an important aspect. But I will say also is to teach them the importance of perseverance. And unfortunately, perseverance and hard work, sometimes it's used too much as a talking point. But if I had some way of really conveying to them how important perseverance is, giving that extra mile, and how even when you feel like you can go no longer, you push a little bit more. That if I was able to convey that, I think that's really important. And also to have no fear. I think sometimes there's a lot of fear of not fitting into a stereotype, right? And I think it's important for us to embrace who they are. Like they say, the outliers sometimes are the ones that change the world, right? So sometimes we might have a student or a kid that's a little bit more of an introvert or has certain abilities. We need to cultivate that and understand them. So I think it's having no fear to follow their passion is really important, and not being afraid of not fitting a certain mold that society has for you. I think that will be one of my top two lessons for them. And really, I tell them, look at my example. We're here in a congressional race. I'm a physician. It's not necessarily a traditional pathway. Fortunately, we have some great examples, right, with Dr. Ron Paul and Dr. Rand Paul as well. But it's about being yourself, being authentic, and not having fear of pursuing your dreams. But I think, in terms of Puerto Rico, one thing that I'm really proud about our culture is our inclusiveness, our diversity. And I think that really also boils down to solidarity. And we saw after all the hurricanes, and we've seen it actually, when I grew up there, and seeing it throughout the years, through many hurricanes, we see that solidarity of our community in the toughest of moments, and I think I'm very proud of that. We saw it after Hurricane Maria, and I think that's something I'm very proud of the culture. It fits, and it's also part of the general American fabric, and when not only the hurricanes that hit Puerto Rico, but also the Virgin Islands or the Bahamas and other places, how you have people reaching out and helping and So I think that's a there's a broader message there, and I think that's really an integral part of who we are as Americans, and I think we need to continue to cultivate that.
Absolutely. And I'm grateful to this country for the values that it has brought to my awareness. Freedom and freedom and strong hard work, is what built this country. And I know you are a proud patriot, so which is why I'm having this conversation with you. And so, patriotism is not something that is taught in schools, so, it was taught in my household, and, through my in adulthood, for me, I've had to understand what that meant. And so I would like you to, on the topic of schools, what do you think should be taught in the schools now?
Strictly speaking, in our schools, I think we could benefit of more vocational training, and also having some either courses or classes that prepare our students for real life experience and the real world, the challenges in the real world, and that could be different for everyone. But I think a common denominator there would be having them understand our system, and I think our not only our constitution, but our tax system, even from a business perspective, some basics on accounting. So
financial literacy.
Exactly. And I think that's really important, because we see how that can have an implication, later along the way. So I think there are many things that we could include in that category.
Of course, there are different systems around the world, but the United States is unique, and it's how can I say, striving for more alternatives education. And then I think other places, I think the traditional curriculum is probably established in most other countries, but the United States has, I feel, been very successful in teaching students some alternatives to the traditional route. And so on that topic, what would you think that needs to be reformed in? Let's start with the city, and the city, the counties, and the state, and the country. You can pick which one, whatever you feel more passionate about. What needs to change?
That aspect really applies to every level of government, right? I think the federal government has a big responsibility in that as a federal program, but I also think the states and the cities can contribute to how, for example, we take care of our veterans, and that's an example where we need to live up to our values and to what we believe in. And so there are different things in the cities and the states and at the federal level that we should be looking at and making sure we fight to keep that liberty and those values intact.
Indeed. And I lived in the UK for greater part of the last 10 years. And when I come back to Orlando, I'm astonished at seeing the homelessness. And I was told that most of them are veterans, and that should not happen.
No.
That should not happen in this country. And so I know that proud patriots like you are endeavoring to make these changes. So I'm thankful to you and all the areas that you're serving.
A reflection of what you did in this life and what others think that your contribution was to this life and this world. And so I do hope that my contribution is worthy of being remembered, and as such, that would be my legacy. But I think it's important to work towards those things and work hard. And then the question is, your peers and your community are going to be the ones that answer that for us.
Yeah, and your son,
Right.
your son, Leo
Right.
the Fourth.
Right.
How is Leo going to remember
Right.
his father?
Right.
That's the question to be answered.
Right.
I'm curious as to, we all, and I have a lighter side, and
Mhm.
of course, those of you who know me out there already know that my goal in life is to laugh a lot and
Mhm.
to keep it light. Not always achievable, but we strive for that. So what is something interesting about you that no one knows about or that you'd like to share with the audience?
Sure. So like you, I love to laugh. I like comedy a lot. But I think the funny, or, the funny fact or the fun fact is that I'm a terrible singer. And, it's in life, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. So being a terrible singer, it's funny and ironic that my son, the only way I have to get him to sleep is to sing to him. So, I think, it's funny because you look at, I'm singing to him and it's, like I said, I'm terrible, but he looks at me like he's seeing a Grammy Award winner, right? So I think it's really funny and it's something, one of those things that we have to do as parents and it makes him feel better. And if he's crying, he stops crying. So even though I'm terrible, I'll be doing it to make him happy.
So I'm sure I hope you're recording these sessions, and maybe one day. This has been such a wonderful conversation.
Absolutely.
And so we want to share with the audience how they can reach you. And I know that, of course, you are running for Congress in District 7, and we made sure that this conversation was not, anyone trying to impress anyone to say, he is the one. But, I wanted to show the real person behind the idea of you being elected for Congress for District 7. So I believe we've achieved that. Any other mode of contacts that you want to share?
So we're at leovalentine.com. And on Facebook, we're Dr. Leo Valentine. So you can find us through the social platforms or through the website. And so you'll have more information about us and our campaign over there.
Okay. And so is there any way anyone can donate to you? They can reach out to those platforms
they can go
have all the information.
leovalentine.com and they'll find all the information there, our platform and the platform for making donations. Yes. Okay.
This has been great. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure.
And we are so grateful to have, again, Dr. Leo Valentine on Frankly Speaking with Sendra D. This is just another episode to bring you some wealth of information, option choices, and, and some spiritual truth. So I hope you benefited from this as I did always. Thank you so much. See you next time. And talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Frankly Speaking with Sendra D on Sendor TV. Please subscribe to the channel so that you can be notified when a new episode is uploaded. Also follow us on Instagram and on Facebook, and we definitely appreciate you being part of this community.